All right, everyone. The ultimate culmination of the fiasco that has been the Brexit campaign is beginning to draw towards its ultimate finale. It'll be interesting to see if a deal actually goes through. Because what's happened is Theresa May has finalized, or at least she claims that it's the final version. She claims that this time she's really serious. It's the final one, and if you don't sign off on it within the UK, like her party doesn't back it, and the EU doesn't ratify it, then fuck you, it'll be a hard no-deal Brexit, and we'll actually be a sovereign nation until we inevitably enslave ourselves again to EU tyranny. She's claiming that. We'll see if that actually happens. Here's what I think. Theresa May's job is to make Brexit look shitty. To pretend to be a Brexiteer, even though she was a Remainer, I think. Part of the Tory party. It's basically like the conservative movement there, conservative in name at least, is sort of partitioned the way our GOP is partitioned. You have populists here that want sovereignty, renegotiated trade. They don't want foreign interventionism, and they want to lower taxes and not be censored and things. Then you have the core of the old guard GOP. They claim to be conservative, but they're not. They don't have a problem with higher taxes. They don't have a problem with disarmament. They don't have a problem with proxy wars. In fact, they were on the forefront of that in the last decade. You've got that partition, so people think of like the Tory movement as like the Brexit movement or something. UKIP was on the forefront. The Conservatives there never pushed the issue. Nigel Farage basically should be the leader of your country. You should eliminate the parliamentary system, go back to a monarchy, but your king should be Nigel Farage. You'd be better off as a country if you did that. It's very funny, by the way, when people call it the hard right. It's like Farage is talking about, oh yeah, we need more immigration. We just want them from Commonwealth states so that they'll speak our lingo, so to speak, and have some cultural trappings that are similar. I want to go back to the old days when most of the immigrants came from places like India and stuff. Oh my God, what a horrible racist he is. He wants more people to come in from India and Pakistan. A horrible person, I know. Absolute identitarianship. No, in reality, he's a classical liberal more than anything else. He's actually further left than me on some of these issues. But it's chaotic. It's chaotic specifically because Theresa May's goal is to make Brexit look untenable in hopes that there will be another referendum vote. That is, that they're hoping to declare the old referendum, well, it's been too long, it's been several years, people have changed their minds, maybe if we held a referendum, we would vote to remain. Now, the EU may not even allow you to do that, by the way. It's not entirely clear. A lot of them want the UK out for causing trouble. And what they're trying to do, the EU's trying to humiliate the UK, which is exactly what I said would happen. They would hardline them. In the process of doing that, because it would fracture parts of the EU, it would make the EU weaker. Because the Western, Merkel and Macron and some of these people, and Juncker, they want to humiliate the United Kingdom to make it look like any nation that leaves the EU will be abused. They're trying to bring force to bear. The problem is that makes them look like bullies. This is what the Visegrad Group and some of these other states are warning against. They're like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. You should try to look like the adults in the room. Otherwise, you look like bullies. Around the world, everyone will be basically laughing at the European Union for the way it's conducting itself. It'll be a farce, essentially. Meanwhile, Theresa May and the other people that don't really want a Brexit at all, they're trying to stymie the deal. They're trying to make it drag on as long as possible, be as humiliating as possible. They're willing to accept that humiliation while also trying to maintain the fabric of their party structure because she doesn't want to lose her job. She doesn't want to be out as prime minister or whatever the fuck she is, in your weird system over there where it's kind of free but really not. Essentially, she wants to keep her lucrative position. So now she's fighting off the fact that apparently several people have resigned again from her administration. That's not good. Increasingly, her own party wants to oust her and call for a vote of no confidence. It's very, very funny to see what's happening there. But this is all being orchestrated by globalists that want this to be as long, as difficult, and as humiliating as possible. Why on earth would they want a good Brexit deal that's sort of mutually beneficial and heals wounds and doesn't drive a wedge between the UK and the EU? Why would they want that? It would embolden Eurosceptics in other countries. You know why? They would say, look, to their people, you are all worried, like if we leave the EU, hell will break loose. Look at the UK. They left. They're doing fine. They're getting along. They're trading. They've got normal relations with the European Union states. So what do we have to fear? Let's have an Ital exit. Let's have a Pexit. Let's have a Swexit. You see what happens. The EU ends up dissolving. This is the only way in which they can try to hold it together. Now, I don't think it works. I think the bringing to bear of the tyrannical sort of abusive nature of Brussels, the bureaucratic force that it represents will actually alienate more people, but it'll be longer term. They're trading short-term gain for long-term pain. Political movements do this all the time. The Republicans are famous of doing that over here. They're like, oh yeah, we won one little temporary victory now, but then we get blown out in the midterms or some stupid shit like that. Like on Kavanaugh, when people like Jeff Flake were flaking out. It looked good for their jobs at the time. I wonder if in retrospect they think it was a bad decision to make. No, the Brexit will continue. I would hazard a guess they might try to cook up another referendum. I'm not sure that they'll get it. And the EU itself probably doesn't care. Ultimately, it's not about losing the UK. Their actions are prefaced on not wanting to lose other states. That's why they want to pull together more and have a European army and have a European superstate. That's being openly called for now by both Merkel and Macron, who represent, with the UK gone, there are two main economies running the EU through Brussels, using the bureaucrats as pawns, really, and being used as pawns a little bit in turn. Angela Merkel and the Germans, and Francois Hollande and the French. You have French nukes and large economy, and you have German industry and a large economy. They are lording over everyone else in Europe. The Western Europeans, for so long, like, oh, we just want peace and wine, women, and song. Don't rock the boat. And Eastern Europe's like, yeah, but we get good, fiscal arrangements from this. Why do we want to have an end to this EU experiment? But it's going to get more abusive. You watch what'll happen. They're going to keep doing everything in their power to humiliate the UK as much as they can. You watch, that's what will happen. Regardless of whether they trigger hard Brexit tomorrow, which could happen, Theresa May could get the votes and say, look, we don't have a deal. What she should have done is simple. If she had wanted to go in, her advisors had to have advised her. If you really want to have a good, sane Brexit, you go in with a concrete timeline and you tell the EU on day one, there's a certain amount of time we'll dedicate to this, but we're going by the will of the people, for politically pragmatic reasons, I would think. We're going by that. You got 6 months, or you got 12 months, or whatever. If there's no deal by then that we can both tolerate, we will trigger a hard Brexit and leave, and then we can negotiate after the fact. We will ultimately be fine. You will ultimately be fine. It'll take years, but we'll be sovereign. And arguing from a position of sovereignty is a little bit better than arguing from a position which her last proposal would have essentially kept the UK on as a vassal state of the EU. You would have lived under their rules. You would have lived under their trade franchise. Everything that you already suffer from under the EU would still be in effect, except you wouldn't officially be part of the EU and wouldn't be a voting member therefore. Basically just an attempt, again, to humiliate the UK into eventually trying to return so it can be enslaved some more, under even worse contractual obligations then. That's the whole goal. The EU wants to re-enslave the UK, keep all other states intact, draw in and enslave Turkey, among other states, which makes no sense at all. I don't know why Erdogan thinks it's a good idea. I think he's crazy. And tyrannize people. It's an attempt to create an imperialistic European superstate that breaks free of international obligations and acts as a major power in the world. Being a major power to the people of Europe, I am telling you this, pulling together into technically a military and economic major power is not actually going to empower the people of Europe. It's going to empower a very small group of oligarchs in a post-national situation that will approximate a one nation, one military scenario. It will not truly be able to compete in a military sense anyway, but it'll give these people a big dick and a lot of industry to play with, and they will make money hand over fist. And by the way, to the left over there, it tends to be more Europhile. Do you honestly believe for a second that they're going to give proper... Social Democrats are going to give all sorts of great wealth benefits to the poor? No. They're going to keep you as poor as possible so that you'll keep doing the workaday thing. That's what they do over here, the corporate oligarchs. It's the same thing. Who do you think fucking runs your countries? You think that these people are actually independent? Are you that naive? Yeah, bullshit. That's about all. Peace out.